Last time, we saw where all the Saiyans ended up, as well as the fate of King Vegeta. But it looks like the first two groups of Saiyans have made contact with each other. Where do we go from here? We'll be seeing that and more in this third part of What If Saiyans Were Good. Shallot and Giblet make their way around Earth. It seems like a relatively weak planet, and hopefully an unassuming one. But as they make their way around the planet, they notice some weird things going on. The only reason they know this is because they went through something similar. There's some sort of army that's taken over Earth. Clearly, it isn't supposed to be this way. They learn it's a group called the Red Ribbon Army. A few years back, they started their conquest, and at some point there was a falling out between the leader, as well as one of his higher officers. The leader, Commander Red, ended up dying, and now the army is taken over by Commander Black. And it's going pretty strong too. Well, Earth will be a great place to stay for Shallot and Giblet, but first off, looks like they're going to need to fight this army. They're not going to live under another oppressive rule, and after all, if they're going to be staying on this planet, they might as well do it a favor. They haven't really fought in a while, and this is the perfect cause to fight for. Giblet thinks they should really lie low, but Shallot's ready to fight. This is completely separate from Frieza. It doesn't really matter if they fight here. There's no way this planet has contact with Frieza's army, and they don't. The Red Ribbon Army has taken over Earth, but that's it. They know nothing else beyond Earth. They don't even know aliens exist. This could be a nice side project for them, and it's also kind of necessary. While they're up to that, let's go back to Namek. So, how did Vegeta get here, and more specifically, why did he choose Namek? It's almost like he knew Bardock's family was here. By now, Bardock and Ginyu have joined too. Nail came along too to see the other Saiyans because something big's going on. Well, first off, let's explain what happened on Planet Cereal. A few months back, Nappa actually fought the Heaters and destroyed their communications in the process. He started off by sabotaging them to make sure they can't get in contact with Frieza. Not that they officially work for him, they're kinda just colleagues. Which is good, they kinda work on their own, so Frieza's not always checking on them. And by sabotaging their communications, this not only prevents them from getting help from Frieza, but also prevents them from getting help from each other because they can't communicate with each other now, unless they stick together in one group. The battle was definitely really tough, but that's what Great Ape is for. Nappa, Vegeta, and Turles all transformed, and Granola also helped during the fight too. When they killed the Heaters, they also covered it up, making it look like they died elsewhere. So if Frieza ever does find out that they died, or realizes something happened to them, Nappa made a paper trail that makes it completely separate from Cereal. It's dirty work, but hey, it had to be done, and it's pretty smart. That means they don't have to worry about the Heaters anymore, and hopefully Cereal doesn't have to worry about the Frieza Force ever coming back. It was unlikely in the first place, but Nappa staging their demise makes it more unlikely that they'll ever show up. They'll be led away from Planet Cereal. Anyways, with this, they were free to leave. The first thing they did was summon Taranbo. Now, they've always been searching for the Saiyans. And they've known about Taranbo, but they couldn't really use him because they didn't want the Heaters to get him. Monaido wanted to summon Taranbo for help, but he also told them it would be wiser to wait until the Heaters were dealt with. So, now that they were dealt with, they summoned Taranbo. One option was to have all the Saiyans teleported right to here, but that's probably not a great idea. First of all, they don't know every Saiyan's unique situation. Maybe they don't want to leave. And while they would hope that they could trust every single Saiyan out there, they don't know if they can. But that part of their reasoning is the least of their worries. Their main concern is that they didn't want to have everyone in one spot just at the moment, especially not on Cereal because they didn't want to put that at risk. Especially after what just happened to the Heaters, there would definitely be alarms raised. At least, if the Heaters were ever found. So they didn't just want to unwillingly teleport everyone here, and even though Taranbo would have asked them anyways, they decided a better option would be to figure out where all the Saiyans are. So, they got that info out of Taranbo. Taranbo gave them the location of all the Saiyans. All they need to do now is manually scout them. This is how they're going to find other Saiyans, and Namek is their first stop. Not many Saiyans are left, but there's more than enough to make a resistance. Vegeta knows the Saiyans are resilient. But not just that, he's confident in something else. He believes a Super Saiyan will rise up eventually. If their numbers aren't enough to defeat Frieza, the Super Saiyan will. Of course, it's just an old legend, and there's not really much merit to it. Turles has always wondered if his brother has just told that to himself just to make himself feel better. He kinda believes in the legend, but he also feels like it's just a motivator for Vegeta. Turles has honestly been feeling pretty pessimistic. He doesn't say any of this out loud. But since his brother believes in it and it seems to motivate him, Turles starts to believe in it too. And Nappa follows Vegeta's order. King Vegeta did say that Prince Vegeta would be the next one to lead. So Nappa is wholly loyal to him, and obviously Turles is too. That's his brother. As for Granola, he's been living with them for so long that they're his allies. They're close to him. They're essentially family. As far as he's concerned, this is his battle too, especially with the history of his people. Granola actually did have an idea. He said they should just wish for power from Taranbo, but Vegeta said that's not how he wants to do this. Granola's welcome to, but at the same time, Granola has grown so much stronger just by training with them regularly. It's kind of a pride thing. The Saiyans are good people, but of course, they're still prideful people. And Granola goes along with it. The reason they're explaining all this too is because, well, they're on Namek. When Monaido heard more Saiyans were on Namek, that made him happy. He actually did come along too, and he steps off the ship. It's been so long since he's seen other Namekians, and he wonders, if there's Saiyans here, have they ever tried to use the Dragon Balls here? Kakarot says they haven't. They've known about Piranga this entire time, but they never really had any need for the Dragon Balls. They were so focused on growing stronger that they didn't even think to leave Namek, especially because they kind of liked it here. It probably would have been better to use that same wish, and Bardock kind of kicks himself for not doing that, but hey, it still did happen in the end, so it doesn't really matter. It probably would have been pretty risky for him to do it anyways. So, what now? Two groups of Saiyans have finally met each other. Vegeta says they don't have to join if they don't want to, but Bardock steps up to personally talk to Vegeta. He knew Vegeta's father, and of course Nappa knows Bardock too, they work together. Vegeta doesn't even need to ask him that question. The answer is yes. They're going along with him. This is what he planned for anyways. He wanted all the Saiyans to retreat so they can grow stronger on their own, and then strike back down the line. This is what he needed to happen. He just wishes King Vegeta were here to do it, but he's not abandoning the Saiyans. Part of him has always felt bad for leaving the planet so early on, but at the same time, everyone else ended up leaving anyways, and it turned out to be the right choice. But there's no need to run anymore. They could face Frieza. And Vegeta's glad to hear that. But they're not going right now, of course. They still do need to grow stronger and form a strategy, but more importantly, they need to find all the other Saiyans they can. So Bardock's family ends up joining the crew, and their next stop is a planet called Yardrat. Apparently there's only 2 Saiyans here, but Nappa does know of one of them. Well, 2 of them actually. One was Paragus, another high-level soldier that he worked with. Bardock of course remembers him too, and he also remembers that kid Paragus had. There was something weird about him, like he was mutated. He had some sort of weird power. Vegeta, for example, was born naturally strong. But as for Broly, he was seemingly weaker, but at points his power would spike and it would be insane. It makes Vegeta wonder if he's connected to the legend of the Super Saiyan at all. It's kind of a long shot, but hey, worth checking out. Plus, they need the allies anyways, and they would get Broly and Paragus regardless. Their ships get closer to Yardrat, and on Kakarot's ship, somebody randomly appears inside of it. Kakarot's taken by surprise because, first of all, who the hell is this? He got in here randomly. It startles him. He's about to fight, but then he realizes it's Broly, the guy they were looking for. How the hell did he get on the ship anyways? They all land on Yardrat. Broly apologizes. He wasn't sure who was coming towards the planet, but he wanted to check it out because he felt a few strong powers. He teleported to Kakarot because he was one of the stronger ones. He was simply trying to protect Yardrat, and he was ready to destroy any of the ships approaching. So, he could teleport. That's interesting. Yeah, Paragus actually can too. With all the time they spent here, of course they learned Spirit Control. Spirit Control has not only made them a lot stronger, but gave them a bunch of unique techniques, one of them being teleporting. The Yardrats have been pretty hospitable, but there is an issue. This planet is actually on Frieza's radar. Thankfully they have been able to hide from Frieza, but there have been times when Frieza's soldiers approached just to search it. Paragus is glad they came here, but he's worried now. This might raise some alarms. So, Vegeta asks him the same question. He wants to group together. The more Saiyans, the merrier. And Paragus, of course, is up for it. Same for Broly. Slowly but surely, they are growing their ranks. But they can't stay here for long. Far away out in space, Broly can sense Frieza's soldiers approaching. This is a surprise to all the others because they can't even sense everything that far. Bardock tries to focus, and he can kind of feel it now. So if the Frieza soldiers have been coming here, how do they hide? Well, teleporting makes it really easy. Broly and Paragus each stick a hand out, coating the entire area in their energy. This includes all the ships the Saiyans arrived on. But then they tell everyone to hold on to each other, and they teleport away from Yardrat. Before they go, Paragus mentally communicates with Paibara. He's sorry to leave so briefly, but he warns them of the Frieza force approaching again. They'll be fine, there's no issue here. But he is concerned that he won't be back here for a while, if at all. So, just in case, he thanks Paibara for everything, saying goodbye because this might be his last. And Paibara hopes for the best. Those two have been great to have around. He hopes not only for their sake, but Yardrat's sake that they could defeat the Frieza force. So, this is good. Now they have more people in the crew, and Broly and Paragus can teleport. Their search is going to be way faster with the ability to teleport. So, where are they going next? Well, they do need some time to train, and they are also strategizing along the way. But while they're working on that, they're also figuring out what planet to go to next. One of the ones Taranbo mentioned is Earth. Apparently there's 2 Saiyans there. Vegeta's never heard of the planet, and it's a pretty small one. Definitely not one that Frieza would even notice. A great place to hide out. Pretty smart. Looks like that's going to be their next target because it seems to be a safe target to go for. The Saiyans make their way to Earth. Frieza is currently at his base. His army does have a lead on something. Nothing confirmed yet, and he doesn't really want to get too ahead of himself, but there's sightings of another enemy. On random planets, his Frieza Force soldiers have disappeared, and it seems like the planets were gone without a trace too. Which is strange because, from what he knows, the Saiyans aren't just going to do things like that. And he can't confirm any of the rumors because most of the people who have seen this enemy have died. But conflicting reports say that he might actually be a Saiyan. Either way, it doesn't really matter to Frieza. There's an enemy out there attacking the Frieza Force. Whether it's a Saiyan or not, it's still an enemy. Maybe even a group of enemies. Because the enemy seems powerful, Frieza sends out the Ginyu Force. He rarely has to rely on them, but here, he wants to. With all these planets disappearing too, he kinda needs to round up some more. Usually he'd go to the Heaters because they would have a lot of planets stocked up, but he hasn't been able to reach them recently. Maybe they're ignoring him, maybe it's nothing, but if they are dead, he wouldn't really care anyways because he never really liked them too much. They were kind of a thorn in his side. But something weird's going on, because if they are dead, that means someone killed them obviously. That's another issue for another time. but he is going to look into it. Meanwhile, the Ginyu Force will handle this. They have very specific orders. If the enemy isn't a Saiyan, the Ginyu Force could wipe them out with prejudice. But if the enemy is a Saiyan, the Ginyu Force is to take back that enemy alive. Frieza will be the one to personally kill that Saiyan, if that's who it is. It has been a while since he's caught one after all, so he's pretty happy. Their numbers are dwindling, but he needs to make sure they're all gone. That number needs to be 0. The Ginyu Force makes their way to one of Frieza's planets, one that they suspect to be targeted next based on the previous attacks. But as they arrive on the planet, they see something strange about it. The planet's just lifeless. Like, the life was sucked out of it almost. That doesn't really make any sense, because from what they know, this planet had a lot more people on it, and a lot more foliage too. But they fly around, and over the horizon they see something weird. There's a giant structure far away. Their ship's about to land, but then it's attacked by some people. The Ginyu Force is ready to fight. Of course, they strike a pose first, but they've been prepared for battle. They begin fighting this group and, of course, are going for the kill. But the group doesn't really seem too strong, so they're not too concerned. Especially with all their abilities together, it's pretty easy to defeat them, and Ginyu's ready to kill them. But he hears an explosion behind him. Goldo completely disappears because he's blown up. Someone killed him. The captured soldiers laugh. The Ginyu Force is strong, but they can't stand up against the Crusher Corps. The Crusher Corps? Ginyu's never heard of them. But a voice then echoes out. Everyone will know the name soon enough. The man standing there is definitely a Saiyan. He clearly looks like one. Jace and Berta immediately go to apprehend him, but the Saiyan single-handedly fights them off and kills them. The rest of the soldiers get free, and they begin fighting Recoome. Before he kills Ginyu, he introduces himself. His name is Turles, and Ginyu is actually a bit concerned because, well, first of all, his squad mates are dead. But second of all, this Saiyan doesn't really seem like the others that they've met. Turles isn't evil like his normal self. He still is evil, though, just not nearly as ruthless. But he's going down a much darker path than the other Saiyans. He thinks that Saiyans need to embrace their roots as ruthless warriors, and leverage their power. So, he found something interesting called the Tree of Might, and he's basically been enacting guerrilla warfare against the Frieza Force, while at the same time, draining their planets of life. Some innocents have died in the process, but hey, if sacrificing others means that he could win and kill Frieza in the end, it doesn't really matter. As long as they're not fellow Saiyans, he doesn't mind. Out of desperation, Ginyu tries to steal his body, but Turles then tackles Ginyu, bringing him into the other side of the planet, where it's currently nighttime. Ginyu's terrified. He sees a full moon shining above him, and Turles is too fast for him to fight. Turles then transforms into a great ape, killing Ginyu on the spot, then going back to where the rest of his group is. This is good. They've been growing much stronger. The Tree of Might's been helpful, but they need to find stronger fruits. Still, clearly the results are good. This definitely isn't enough to fight Frieza, especially because Turles doesn't think he'd be able to handle the Ginyu Force alone. He picked them off one by one, which was fine, but if they all fought him together, he'd definitely lose. There's no doubt he can't fight Frieza right now. But again, he's going to any length to do that. He's been completely radicalized. As long as Frieza dies and the Saiyans live, as well as the Crusher Corps of course, he'll be happy. But he's not just seeking out the Tree of Might. No, he's also seeking out Saiyan legends. Of course he knows about the Super Saiyan, but there's more. And he remembers back to the Saiyans' past. The evil Saiyans in particular had a lot of great power, didn't they? He'll definitely be looking more into that. As far as Turles knows, he's actually part of that lineage. One of the few evil Saiyans to still be around. Maybe the only one. Of course, Planet Vegeta has changed him a bit, but he likes this side. Just like in the main story where most Saiyans are evil and some are good, the inverse happens here. Most Saiyans are good, but there are some who are bad. With that, we'll leave off here for now. What'd you guys think about this part and what's going to happen next time? Leave your thoughts and ideas in the comments below. I'd love to see what you guys think. As usual, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help out the channel and shows me you want to see more videos like this. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.